Sam Neill joins the Legend of Zelda movie in one of his final screen appearances, and for anyone who has followed his career for the better part of 5 decades, that single piece of news carries a weight that goes far beyond casting gossip, because it means one of the most beloved and instantly recognizable faces in modern cinema quietly stepped in front of a camera one more time, in secret, before the world would ever have the chance to say goodbye. The story only came to light in early August of 2026, when entertainment outlets confirmed that Neill had filmed his scenes for Sony and Nintendo's long-awaited live-action Legend of Zelda adaptation sometime before production wrapped in April, meaning that while fans were speculating for months about who might play Link, who might play Zelda, and who might step into the role of the villain Ganondorf, Sam Neill had already come and gone from set. His part in the film locked away and unspoken, a secret held until after his passing made it public in the most bittersweet way possible. Neill died on July 13, 2026 in Sydney, Australia from pneumonia, at the age of 78, closing the final chapter on a life spent almost entirely in front of audiences. And the news that one of his very last performances would live inside a Nintendo-born fantasy world adds a strange and touching symmetry to a career that always seemed to move fluidly between the serious and the whimsical, between prestige drama and pure, joyful spectacle. For those who grew up watching him, the name Sam Neill is inseparable from the sight of a paleontologist standing frozen in awe at the first glimpse of a living, breathing dinosaur, because his portrayal of Dr. Alan Grant in Jurassic Park did more than launch a franchise. It gave millions of viewers a specific kind of wonder, a mixture of fear and disbelief, and quiet scientific curiosity that Neill somehow made feel completely real, even when surrounded by special effects that were, at the time, unlike anything audiences had ever seen. He would return to that role decades later in Jurassic World Dominion, stepping back into Alan Grant's shoes for the first time since Jurassic Park III, reuniting with Jeff Goldblum and Laura Dern in a moment that felt less like a marketing reunion and more like old friends returning to a story that had shaped all of their careers. And that willingness to revisit a character with warmth rather than cynicism said something about who Neill was as a performer, someone who never seemed to view his most famous role as a burden, but rather as a piece of himself he was happy to carry forward. But to define Neill purely by dinosaurs would be to miss almost everything interesting about him, because underneath the mainstream success was an actor who spent just as much of his career chasing strange, unsettling, deeply human stories in smaller films that rarely got blockbuster attention, but earned him a reputation as one of the most fearless character actors of his generation. Someone equally comfortable playing a man slowly disintegrating opposite Isabelle Adjani in the psychological horror of Possession, or descending into cosmic dread in the Mouth of Madness, or facing down a spaceship's malevolent secrets in Event Horizon, each performance carrying a different shade of unease, each one proving that Neill could unsettle an audience just as easily as he could delight one. He brought that same versatility to comedy and lighter fare as well, memorably appearing as a mischievous, almost cartoonish version of Odin in Thor. Ragnarok, a performance so brief yet so specifically funny, that it became one of the film's most quoted surprises. And it's that same instinct for playing against expectation that has fueled endless speculation now about exactly what role he might be filling in The Legend of Zelda. Because as of the news breaking, his character has not been revealed, and neither Sony nor representatives connected to Neill have offered any confirmation of who, or what, he plays in Hyrule. What is known is the shape of the film taking form around him, a live-action adaptation years in the making, first announced back in the fall of 2023 as a joint venture between Sony and Nintendo, with Wes Ball, the director behind The Maze Runner and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, brought on to steer a story that fans have wanted to see brought to life for decades. Benjamin Evan Ainsworth was cast as Link, and Bo Bragason as Princess Zelda, two relatively new names carrying the weight of one of gaming's most enduring legends. And around them, the supporting cast has grown steadily more intriguing, with Uli Ladukhefu stepping into the role of the film's central antagonist, Ganondorf, and Dichin Lachman cast as Impa, the loyal protector and advisor tied closely to Zelda's story throughout the franchise's mythology. The Legend of Zelda is far from Neill's only posthumous project, as his passing left behind a small string of performances still awaiting release, including a role in the upcoming Godzilla x Kong. Supernova, the next installment in the long-running monster franchise from Warner Bros. And Legendary, as well as a part in The Last Resort, a romantic comedy starring Daisy Ridley and Alden Ehrenreich, meaning audiences will have several more chances in the coming months and years to see him on screen one final time, each appearance carrying its own quiet echo of finality. But there's something particular about the Zelda casting that has resonated more deeply with fans than the others, perhaps because of the sheer scale and cultural significance of the franchise itself, a game series created decades ago by Shigeru Miyamoto and Takashi Tezuka that has sold well over 150 million units worldwide since its original release in 1986, spawning generations of players who grew up navigating Hyrule, solving its puzzles, and falling in love with its mythology, meaning that Neill's involvement, however small or large his role turns out to be, links his legacy to one of the most beloved interactive stories ever created, ensuring that a new generation of viewers, many of whom may know him only vaguely if at all, will encounter his face and voice inside a world built for wonder, much the same way audiences once encountered him standing in stunned silence before the dinosaurs of Jurassic Park. The film itself is currently scheduled for release in theaters on May 7, 2027, meaning fans still have months to wait before finally seeing how all the pieces come together, before finally learning what character Sam Neill brought to life in what may be remembered as his last significant screen performance, and before finally understanding what kind of farewell the filmmakers, whether by design or by circumstance, ended up giving him. Until then, all that remains is the waiting, the speculation, and the quiet, complicated feeling of anticipating a film that will double as both a celebration of a legendary video game franchise and an unexpected tribute to an actor whose career spanned dinosaurs and gods, horror and heart, blockbuster spectacle, and deeply strange independent cinema. A career that fittingly may end not with a dramatic final bow, but with a role still shrouded in mystery, waiting patiently inside the world of Hyrule for audiences to finally meet it.